So, mid-pond went well, but obviously no oil cooler. Car still gets really hot after only about 2 or 3 laps. I bought all the stuff to put an oil cooler on it, so we're gonna do that today. Although real quick, my way back from mid-pond, I lost my sunroof delete plate. So this is the new one. Need to still put another layer of silicone sealant on it. That one, I don't think it's fully covering it. And then eventually I'll paint it to match the car, but for right now it works mostly. Walking around inside right now because we've got a little spout of rain outside, but the parts I've got are a set wrap oil cooler, a derail, I don't know how it's pronounced,
To complete your performance cooling setup, don't forget Duraley's inline fan control. Duraley
oil thermostat, the Bevan C oil cooler cap that just goes right on, your oil filter housing, and then just Evil Energy line kit. So I've went ahead and taken the intercooler off because I intend to put this set rab oil cooler right up under here, in between the radiator and intercooler. Fits right behind the core support. Ooh, let me get this out. Need to Dremel a little bit on the core support on the other side so that it can fully fit. It's very, very close, but it kind of hits on like right here just a tiny bit. I think if I take, maybe an 1/8 of an inch off or so with a Dremel, it'll fit up there no problem. And then I also got to figure out where I want to mount my oil thermostat. Alright, I've got it Dremeled out so this fits up nicely back here. I just got to figure out if I want to put the oil thermostat, around back here behind the core support, or try to find a place in the engine bay for it to go. So I'm gonna see if I can play around with fittings and see if I can make anything work with the fittings that I have. So this is what I think I'm gonna do. So oil cooler gonna sit here. The lines for it are gonna come up behind this core support, come up through here, sneak out around here, and then come up over the top here. Gonna go into these. I'll find a better way to secure this down using the wiring just because it's there. And then these are gonna snake back over this way. And I've got the Bevan C oil cap that's gonna go here. And then depending on where it puts the the 2 nozzles, I'll probably do, a 90 and then a 90 with an extension, or I'll get 2 more 45s, and whichever works best. I could also just do straight pieces here, and then I can mix and match 45s and 90s however I need to on the cap. We'll see once I start getting some lines made and mocked up, see how everything fits in here. So I've got the Bevan C cap in here, although I do have a little bit of an issue. So I can't use a 90 because if I kind of mock up, obviously I put it right here, it almost kind of looks okay, but it's hitting my Vanos unit here, and tightening it down, it'd have to be inside the Vanos unit, so can't use a 90. And then I can't use 45s because even though it clears the Vanos unit, if I get this on here like this, one, I'm not crazy about this angle. I'd like to keep it from getting up over here, and I just don't like the bend of that, but also I can't put 2 of them on here. It hits. I mean, maybe if I start to tighten it down a little bit, and nope, still it's gonna hit. So what the plan is, let me get these off real quick. So I'm gonna use 90s, and I'm gonna get like 3 or 4 extensions. So one will go on here, and this should push it out far enough so that it clears Vanos, and then either 2 here or 3, it just depends on how many it takes to clear this other one, and then the 2 lines can just run down this way over to here, where I will have the oil thermostat. All right, starting to get the AN lines done. I've got this in here, got bags over this because it was raining last night and a little bit this morning. So I'm gonna route this one up through here, connect here, and then grab the other side, get it over here, and then still waiting on the extensions to come in to get this finished, but those should be in either today or tomorrow. And yeah, hopefully get all of this hooked up. All right, we've got 2 lines made and secured up here. The hood closes as long as this is pushed up over here, so I'll probably run a zip tie through. There's 2 little holes right here to hold this left one in place, and then the right one will just be held in because it's being pushed anyway by here. And then when it's like that, it kind of wants to push this right here, so I'm gonna go ahead and test fit the 45-degree fittings on here and see if that would be better to get it up over to the oil filter cap, and see how it's looking. Ideally, I can have it right here, so I could zip tie it around here, the metal zip tie, and then find some way to get these. Maybe I could do it like this or whatever, but we'll get that figured out. So far, so good though. All right, so the fittings came in actually while I was filming earlier. So I've got these on here. Luckily only needed 1 extension, then 2 here. Gonna shoot off straight that way, and then this will be just like this. I'm still just gonna use the straights because I'd like to keep this as far away from the manifold down there as possible. And with it still sitting there, I can just move this over like that, make it work. But gonna go ahead and cut the AN lines to get this connected up to here, and then check for leaks and make sure everything's good. All right, first line from the cap is done. Let's go ahead and get this second one done. All right, we've got everything in and tightened down. I need to snip these zip ties so we don't got a bunch of excess hanging off, but everything is secured. Except these, need to finish screwing those in. I've got some really long lines here, almost 9 feet, not quite. I'm hoping that it doesn't drop my oil pressure too much because of how long these are. I'll probably test, and if I see it dip below 15 psi at idle, I'll just cut out the thermostat and just run oil cooler straight to the cap. But we will figure that out. All right, got everything tightened and it's running, sitting just under 50 psi at a cold start. I'm not seeing any leaking coming from these lines or anything. All dry, same here, all dry. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna wait for it to, I'm just gonna let it idle, let it heat it up normally. And once it's up to temps, oil should be coming through these lines. And then I'll be able to make sure that, it's not leaking down here, or it's not leaking down here at all, or, at these fittings right here. All right, just got the car shut off. Let it idle up to full, normal temps. Oil pressure only fell to around 28 or 29 once it was up to temps. And that's, I could tell it's flowing through the oil cooler because the lines here are hot. So far, so good. We'll see once we actually get it out onto the track how it does. I also have a new little switch coming in here. This is a 200 degree switch, 200 Fahrenheit. I ordered a 180 Fahrenheit switch, so it'll kick this into high a little bit earlier, just, you know, help keep the motor cool. And hopefully it comes in before the next drift day. Yeah, and then if I need to, you know, might do some road testing a bit, just drive it up and down the street, make sure everything's good. But we will figure that out later. All right, so because this thing will not idle up to proper temps, I've got these. So what we're gonna do is I'm gonna pull this one out. I'm gonna reuse this sensor, and this sensor is still gonna operate, you know, kick on the high fan. And then this sensor is going to kick on low. So I flip the switch inside, it won't turn on until this sensor trips, and then high will turn on when this sensor trips. So I'm gonna go ahead and get this assembled and installed. All right, got the old one off, but this piece is a bit stuck and broken, so I'm gonna try to get this cut off real quick. All right, I've got the two switches installed in the new housing. Gonna go ahead and put this back in and then get everything wired up. All right, I've got it in. Gonna modify this wiring I've got right here so that you know, this will kick on low and then this one will kick on high. Gonna have to look at my schematic to remember exactly how I had this set up, but it shouldn't take too long. Alright, so this is what I've done. I also realized a flaw in how it was before, where the low side wasn't fused before, but I fixed that now. So we've got the trigger wire coming in from the switch inside. This comes, it runs through the fuse into the low side switch, and the low side switch breaks off into two wires. The one side goes on and kicks on the low side relay on the Volvo relay in there, and the other side goes into here. And on this side, when this switch flips, it connects the high side switch into there, and then the relay setup in there is set up so that if the high side switch flips on, the low side automatically flips off, so both aren't running at the same time. So we're gonna test this and see how it does, and then got a private day in a couple weeks to test it and make sure it actually works well at the track. So let's see. All right, so I just tested it. Couldn't record it because I used my phone to check the temperatures through the OBD port. The two-stage setup works. However, I don't actually get to utilize it at idle, because even with the fan off, it still does not go much over 160 idling. To even test it, I had to be revving it to even get the temperatures up enough to kick the fan on, but the fan does kick on right around 170, 175 or so, and then, you know, kicks off once it gets back down to 160. I'm just gonna send it for right now. I'll probably swap that for a different oil thermostat later, maybe go a little bit higher, because I would like for it to, you know, be able to idle up to 180. But we'll see. We'll see how it does. Also, I do have to get some Teflon tape for these because, ow. Well, I guess I got it all off, but there is a very small leak coming out of them. OSW, done several laps, probably 20 laps today so far. Temps seem good. It got hot once. I had to do about 8 hot laps to even get it to be that point. So I definitely consider that an improvement. Last time 2 laps and it was having to sit 20 minutes. So definitely call that an improvement. home. The event was a success. The car did great. I think I am going to take out the oil thermostat just because it did seem to lower my oil pressure a bit more than I wanted it to. And truthfully, once it gets hot, it doesn't really matter, and that's just kind of the state that the car exists in most of the time it's being driven. So just gonna remove that and connect the oil cooler radiator directly to the cap. I'm not gonna show that, I'll just do that, after, but whatever. Anyways, thank you for watching. Like, comment, subscribe, all that shit. Deuces.